باسم ربك الذي خلق.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today is the day of 18 days of our Ramadan, and I'll be continuing the discussion on Juzu 18 of the Quran. Basically, Juzu 18 comprises of three important surah, namely Surah AlMuminin, which comprises of 118 verses, Surah An-Nur comprises 64 verses, and also Surah Al-Furqan 77 verses. So all in all, if we were to calculate, it's actually about 259 verses. You imagine how many pearls and what we call it, germs that we can extract. Yeah. So first and foremost, Surah Al-Mu'minun, when I'm referring to the Quran, it talks about in general being revealed in Makkah. There are several lessons that we can extract. Among others, the 7 characteristics of a successful people. Among others, the characteristic should be what? Khushu in prayer. What we call it, fulfill treaties strictly. I will not go into all these 7, but what I'm saying is that it begins with the what we call it, a successful people who will inherit Jannatul Firdaus. I'm sure all of us would like to be there. Yeah? So secondly, it also speaks on the God's creation, Allah's creation of man, reminding that man's position in this life, the certainty of man's future, and also one day will be returning to him. So here, from the stage of nutfah, alaqah, mudghah, idhaman, fakasawma lahman, and also khalqan akhar, and finally yawmul ba'th, yani we are returning back to him. So all these stages of life here is not without what we call it tested from Allah Ta'ala. There are many tests. However, before Allah mentioned all the tests, Allah also said He provides what we call it physical as well as spiritual well-being. Now, in the form of physical, what we call it physical well-being, Allah Ta'ala has already what we call it created, what we call give the rain from the sky, which enliven the soil, and then from the soil there is also trees springing from mountain that provide oil and also fruit for all of us to eat. At the same time, benefiting man in terms of food, and as well as animals, as well as sea for man to sail around the world. So this is what we call physical well-being. Now, what about this spiritual well-being? Interesting enough, we found that with regard to spiritual well-being, Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the narration of the people of the past, in particular, the story of the Prophet. For example, Prophet Nuh, Prophet Harun, Prophet Musa, as well as Prophet Isa. You see, without this test, we cannot survive. And what more to uphold this issue of what do you call it, successful people. So the test here, what we're trying to say is that it can one way or another inform us that all prophets lead a balanced life despite them being tested. All prophets bring the same message of Tawheed as well as life in the hereafter. And in explaining it to humankind, Allah Ta'ala bring the what we call it, the spirit of moving forward, despite that whatever that you've been tested, Prophet has been tested. So what do we do now? In today's world, we can see this relationship in the form of what we are talking nowadays, Islamophobia. You see, all prophets been tested, all prophets being persecuted. What more? We ourselves will be persecuted if we want to uphold the teaching of Islam. But towards the end of the what we call it, the verse, Allah Ta'ala informed us what need to be done to overcome this issue of being tested in the form of Islamophobia. Very interesting. We can see the strategic planning that we can do. we have to uphold this, observe these 7 characters and practice it, try to our best, and do not forget also the dua. What are the dua? Interestingly, we can find 2 dua here. Rabbi a'udhu bika min hamazatis shayateen, and the other one is Rabbi firli Rabbi fir warham wa anta khairur rahimin. And at the same time, Allah remind, interestingly again, repel evil with that is best, meaning to say idfa billati hiya ahsan as-sayyi'ah. All the bad deeds should be repelled with good deeds. Can we do that? It's not interesting. It's not as easy as it has been highlighted in the Quran. We move on to the next surah, that is Surah An-Nur. Again, another example of life is about tests. Yeah? In this Surah An-Nur, Surah 24, comprises of 64 verses. It discusses the principal goals of Islam. All of us are going to face a lot of problems. Yeah? Here it highlights the urgent social problem faced by mankind in the form of slander. You can see every day, now, day in, day out, we are talking about slander ataupun fitnah in Malay or in Arabic fitnah as well. The story of, in the form of the events that takes place for Aisha. Aisha has been slandered by the munafiqun, Abdullah ibn Ubay. In the event, we call it as al-ifk, falsehood. So this represented what? A calumny. A calumny is happening from day one, meaning to say that it happens every day. So how do we face this? How do we overcome this issue of calumny? So Allah Ta'ala informed us many principles of life that we can check. What needs to be done to overcome this? So what are the principles among others? Never believe rumor. Now, this is what we have been doing all this while. When we get something from in our WhatsApp, we immediately move on by which is not good for all of us unless and until we are sure we can forward. But if not, just keep quiet. The other one is not to get involved in gossip and backbiting. To teach our children to enter our parents' house, whereby a parents' room, especially before subuh, afternoon, zuhur, and also night, it is during Aisha. So we have also to observe that we should not be going to people's house at odd hour. And another one is mu'min in terms of putting hijab. This is the most important point that we can see from Surah Nur, whereby women has to cover their awrat. But the perfect awrat or hijab here is that not only for men, but not only for women, but also for men as well. What is it? Keeping our eyes, lower our gaze, our heart and thought should be pure from evil. That's the best in terms of perfect hijab that we can extract from this Surah An-Nur. Now, again, in this Surah, Surah An-Nur, that is the most important part that Allah Ta'ala informed of Allah nurus samawati wal ard mathala nurihi until the end. So this is the highlight of the surah. Move on again to another surah, that is Surah Al-Furqan. What is the meaning of Furqan? Furqan refers to the term criterion. What do you mean by criterion? Because just now in Surah Nur it talks about criterion. It talks about what needs to be done in terms of principle. But now in Surah Furqan it's talking about what is right, what is wrong. Here again, testing from Allah Ta'ala is to be expected. Because in this surah, it talks about what? Doubt and objection that were raised against the Quran, were raised against the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad and also his teaching. But Allah has informed us, appropriate answer and objection have been given. And people have been warned of the consequences of rejecting the truth. Imagine what happened to people in Christchurch, and imagine what happened during the times of Kemal Atatürk, and imagine also in Khmer Rouge. You see, all those who have what we call it has disrespect the teaching of Islam will face the downfall. Trump has to come his time. So again, the narration in this surah is found in the form of the story of Prophet Musa again. Prophet Harun, Prophet Nuh, and also the outcome of the event of people of Prophet Lut. Now, today we have so many Maha Fir'aun. We have also Maha Qarun, Maha Haman. So this surah is very good for all of us to refer to, so that we can get the spirit of to overcome or to highlight, to strengthen our strength in terms of facing this tribulation from around us. Yeah? So interestingly, again, this surah talked about Ibadur Rahman. So in Surah AlMuminin, it speaks about people who are successful and inheriting the Jannatul Firdaus. But here it talks about Ibadur Rahman who will, insyaAllah, will experience hasunat mustaqarra wa muqama, meaning dwelling in the beautiful abode and place of rest. So what are the characteristics? Interestingly, it has about 6 altogether. The first one is humble in their life. When ignorant address them, they say, Qalu salama, peace. Yeah? And then spend the night in adoration, meaning to say tahajjud and whatnot, prostrate and standing. And they also say dua, again dua in Surah Furqan, Rabbana srif anna azab jahannam, meaning, oh Allah, avert us from the wrath of hellfire. And then spending not extravagantly, strike a just balance between the extreme, not involved in false worship, killing others, and not involved in also fornication. And finally, it talks about not to witness to falsehood. So these are the information for all of us to apply from Surah Furqan, from Surah Al-Mu'minun, and also from Surah Nur. So having said that, I guess that's about all for a short briefing. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.